Hello, my name is Jason, and welcome back to I Have a Story. This is a first. I keep forgetting to do this. Please like and subscribe my channel, share my stories, and try to help me grow and get heard. And I like to thank for the people who have been watching. Thank you for following along. This is a follow-up video about when I talked about the medical industry and one of the problems, and part of it being that we've allowed foreigners to take over that industry. And I've shared some of my fears, and I'm not saying that every foreigner is a bad person or foreign people are bad people or any of that, but we've gotten away from the true reality and differentiation between, honestly, like really what's right and wrong. It's right to treat everybody equally and everybody with compassion, morals, values, but at the end of the day, we've put people in charge of things that they are not capable of being in charge of, and we've done it strictly because they are of a different descent, skin color, a certain race, sex, but we're not supposed to be racist and we're not supposed to be sexist. It's really confusing here. I mean, I'm trying to even make sense of it all in my head, even though I know that it's just a big game. But how do you fight through it all? So when you talk about mentality and you talk about people, and I'm talking about things in my life, there is so much to say. I try to keep these videos short, and you can't fit it all in. And I try to stay underneath a 10-minute video and trying to keep that all in there. And I like to talk. There's so much to talk about. So this is probably, I believe, the last thing I'll add to that as far as the Arab community and the Arab people that I've met and what I want to share, because when I share these stories and hopefully over time putting all of this together, it's part of where people don't they get lost, because one, we've made it confusing with so much today. We live in a world of ideology, which is not factual. It's what I believe. I'm sorry, you are not a dog because you believe you are a dog. You're still a human being. At the end of the day, facts are still facts, and we've allowed this to just run rampant through our country, and it's really messed up and confused a lot of people. So this is hopefully the last thing I'll add about the Arab community, the Arabs that I've met, the things that I've seen, and how I've put some of this together. And again, please, if you have more to say, please do. That's what we're here for, as a community, to grow and learn and to try to make a difference and make things better. So when I talk about the Arab community, I also want to share there is a definite, certain, distinctive difference, one, in any foreigner who's been born and raised in America as to one who's coming from a foreign country. When they were born and raised, and I really talk to people, I enjoy talking to people. I just, maybe 2 weeks ago, was on the phone with an AT&T representative who was in Peru, or a country in Peru. I believe it was Peru. Uh, and honestly, we talked about what I needed to talk about relative to my phone within just a couple minutes, and then we talked for an hour and a half and just spent an hour and a half talking to each other, which is kind of funny. I talk about how I've seen it firsthand with these at-home jobs, but this is, I mean, she just sat there and got paid to talk to me in BS for an hour and a half, talk to me about where she's from, what her homeland is like. I said, yeah, I've heard in a lot of these countries, you're still bucketing water. Yeah, we still bucket water back to our house. To talk to these people, and then to that right there is why I talk about why we need to understand this stuff. Does a woman who lives in another country who still buckets water to her house and does not have basic plumbing understand and have the same mindset, knowledge, and all the stuff, and be able to put things together, all of it, in a country as advanced as we are? It's like taking a caveman, dropping him in society, giving him a degree and a scalpel, and saying, go to work. It doesn't work that way. There's a total difference between a foreigner who was born here, raised and submerged in our environment with our mindset, freedom of thought, freedom of what was supposed to be for thought and speech, and all of it, the technology, cars. I mean, Jesus, some of these people you will talk to on a phone and think they are technologically advanced have never seen a car before in their life. So you have to understand that what I'm saying is not a racist, sexist. I'm not here to say any of that kind of stuff. We all have our values. If society collapsed, I'll tell you what, you would want those people here to help you, because so many people today would not know how to live without technology. One thing I'm going to point out that I mean, this was a real eye opener to me. I was in my early 30s going back to college, and I'm in class with a bunch of basically kids. These are fresh out of high school to me children. A lot I will talk about in my life, and I will be talking more stories about going to school as an adult. Um, but one thing I really want to point out, when I was in math class, my teacher was trying to teach basic graphing. A1, put a dot. B2, put a dot, connect the dots. Literally, I kid you not, literally, I could, it blew my mind, eye opener. Kids could not do it. They struggled. And then it made me think, wait, I learned that back in like elementary school. What are they teaching kids today that's actually valuistic to the real world, that actually makes them okay, able a mind, being able to live and survive in the real world? So when you think about that, my teacher stopped and said, Jason, why are you so good at this? I said, it's easy, sir. I was born before GPS and Google. I know how to use a map. That's all graphing is using a map. Where's St. John's Road? B24, right there. That's what graphing is. We've taken all that little stuff out of our world, and that's even creating our kids today to be lost in such the simplicities that we had when we were when I was young in my generation. Something as simple as using a map. If the grid shut down, those kids would not even know how to navigate. Hey Bob, how do I get to the hospital? I just cut myself. Alexa, how do I get to the hospital? I don't know. She's not responding. I don't know how to get there. And that's really what would happen today. It's scary. So this is I'm setting this all of this. I mean, there is so much to put together. I mean, the world has become such a disillusioned and such a lost place. But yet it actually really is very simple. And this is why I talk about, and it is one major problem in our medical industry. We've put people in power, in control, put degrees and scalpels in their hands, and let them operate on us and make medical decisions. I really have to question, because this came about and was hitting news headlines when I was a kid. Doctors who were practicing in hospitals but had never been to school and falsified their doctorates. Now, let me ask you, how can a doctor pass medical school but yet still not be able to speak adequate English? Now, I admit, I would not expect to be a doctor and walk into an Arab community or any community that is not a native English speaking community, which we have plenty of in our country. And I would not expect to be a doctor there and be able to do my job properly and not be able to communicate with those people properly. That's a huge part right there of just being a doctor. But how did you come through in an English speaking country in a school system that is an English speaking school system, still not be able to speak English, but yet be able to pass that schooling? How can you not have the mentality? And this is where I talk about book smarts, and maybe that's part of, into this, as a book smart person being able to relate that book to real life. Well, the book says you should only weigh 185 pounds and you weigh 215. You're obese and overweight, and that's why you can't stand up and you're falling down in pain. Yes, this is what I was diagnosed with. And yes, this is exactly what happened. I got out of bed, hit the floor, could not stand up. Went to my doctor, and she told me I was obese and overweight because I weighed 215 pounds. I lifted my shirt. I have pictures. I lifted my shirt and asked her, you show me what you can pinch. I'm not obese and overweight. That's not what's causing me to fall down. Well, the BMI chart says 185 pounds is what you should weigh. Ma'am, you're a doctor and you can't figure out that I'm an athletic, very strong, very physically built person. And this is another thing, foreign mentality. Foreigners in so many countries are skinny. I mean, really, you look at Asians, you look at the Arab community, they are very skinny, smaller bones, smaller body framed. They don't understand the athletic bodybuilder in itself. So even if they are book smart and pass because of books, just because they are a smaller, physically bodied person, they don't have, apparently, especially in this case, and I'm giving her the benefit of the doubt. That's part of me talking about this. I try to give people the benefit of the doubt and not just think they're just an ignorant person. Looking at her, she is a complete foreign Arab woman. What exact native and country, I couldn't tell you. But when she diagnosed me as being obese and overweight, how many athletic men has she actually been familiar with? There's a difference between me being 300 pounds when I should only be 185 according to the BMI chart, and for me to be 215 pounds, complete athletic, muscular, built like a rock, and saying that that's my problem. And that, yes, is what was in my diagnosis and is what went into my first disability case. I mean, these doctors have really messed up my life. Part of why I'm here to complain so much about it. Left me for dead, almost killed me, screwed me up in my Social Security case, trying to make me fight for my life, my still having to try to make money and survive. I mean, it's all been a nightmare. My life has really been a nightmare. And it's all completely provable. I mean, that stuff's all documented. It's in my Social Security case, it's in my doctor's reports. Undeniable. Pictures of me throughout all those time periods. You'll see I'm not some 300-pound obese person. So this is where I really struggle and I'm having a problem, why I'm fighting back so hard. You push against somebody so hard, eventually they're going to start pushing back. So I want to know how, when you can't speak English, proper English, and how when you don't have the mentality to know the difference between simplistic things like BMI chart, comparing it to an athletic person, etc. How did you even make it through school? Especially when today, how much easier is it today? I mean, foreigners are just allowed to have. They're just deserving because they're foreigners to take what we have. Give it to them. We've given these people so much power and money, and they're bringing these people over. How many of those people are they just, here you go, we can get you a job? I don't know. I'm asking. I would like to. But I also want to talk about, I've seen an awful lot of change in, I've already talked about a foreigner who was born here and a foreigner who was born in a foreign country and then came here. But I've seen, to put into his perspective too, I've seen a huge difference between the elder Arab people that I've met, say today would be 60 to 70s, and their mentality and the mentality of their children. Their children are much more open minded. The women are much more open. When I got into some of these houses, how hard it was for me to break the ice with the Arab moms. And breaking the ice was almost like I need a bigger pick and hammer. Um, it really was a struggle, but I finally was able to crack a smile. It took me some time, but I did it. And I put in effort, and that's part of it. How many put in effort to actually make somebody else smile? I love doing it. I find it to be a challenge that I love to do. Part of why I get along with those people that people say, don't talk to that person. You won't get along with them. Nobody does. Really? I just found a challenge. um, so there is definitely the Arab men are much more guarded, much more closed off. I've met so many elder, when I just gave my, what I give my, in throughout my life, that generation, today, if they're 60 to 70, 10 years ago, they would have been 50 to 60. Probably keep going back. I've met so many of them that pretend like they won't even speak English just to not talk to me. Like, wait a second, I've talked to your wife, I've talked to your kids. You cannot tell me you don't speak English. I actually pulled up and saw that a tree fell in your yard. This happened in my neighborhood just, what, 5 years ago? I saw a tree fallen that had fallen in this guy's front yard, and I stopped to offer to help clean it up. I don't speak English. You did just speak English to tell me you don't speak English. I don't speak English. Sir, I've already talked to your wife and kids. I walk my kids through this neighborhood. Our kids have played together. I know you speak English. And he still would not talk to me. He turned his back and walked away. Like, that is rude. That is disrespectful. That would just urinate right in my face, right? That is what I'm talking about with the elder gentlemen that I've met. I don't even want to, why do I call them gentlemen? Because they even treat their wives like that. And that is part of why their wives are so guarded and standoffish against, especially white men. They're scared of their own men in that era and generation because their men have been, I mean, I talk to people, especially here where I live. A lot of foreigners come here because this is a place where, um, it's a very destinational tourism place, and we have a lot of foreigners who come here just specifically to work in the summertime. And this has happened where I came from. We had a lot of foreigners who came specifically, Mexicans specifically, who came from Mexico just to work the farms down there. And I stop and talk to them and spend time with them. I'll sit and I'll smoke a joint and hang out for a night with them and just, hey, I stopped in and just met somebody and said, hey, you guys are having a party tonight? I might not drink. You guys smoke? We might not smoke. Okay, well, I just stop and hang out because that'd just be cool. Might even stop and have a beer, even though I don't normally drink, but it's just a way to break the ice and fit in. It's part of where some of this stuff I was really thinking about, marijuana has been so, I don't want to run down trails. I'll talk more about that later. But, this stuff, what I would say is this stuff has really brought people together. When I worked in Detroit and met the brothers in the street, that is part of how I broke the ice with them. You guys are smoking a joint, you popo man? No, give me that joint. You cool. It has really broken the ice with a lot of people, but it's also separated us back in the day with a lot of people. Just because I spoke pot 20 years ago, so many people would look down upon me and push me away because of that. It's again talking about changes in mentality and what it's done in my life, because back then I was scared to talk to people, scared to even apply for certain jobs because I want to smoke pot. And it wasn't right. If you could drink, you could even snort coke because that's out of your system in 24 to 48 hours. All you have to do is know 2 days ahead of time. You're clean. Smoking pot isn't like that. And it's been needed a lot in my life. So that's part of where I've broken the ice, even with this, sharing, talking to my stories about talking to so many different communities of people, because these still take place. Go in Detroit. There is still absolute segregated communities of Detroit. Um, I'm good at getting off track because there's so much to talk about. And again, I try to keep these videos short and keep them on track. Uh, so speaking with the Arabs in general, because of what their background and country was like that they came from, and where they do come from is so much different than ours. It changes who they are. It makes them who they are. It makes them think the way that they do. No different than any other victim. If somebody gets hurt, they're going to become guarded to that pain. And that's what it's all about. You just have to realize that, and not look at them as a bad person. You have to understand that they are that person because of the pain they've experienced. Some people are generally just bad people. But most people, most of them that are standoffish, guarded, have pain. And that's the way I see it. I don't know why. I can see it in people's eyes. I look in their face and I just feel it. And I find a way to break that wall that they're guarding. And I'm so successful at it in all sorts of realms of the world. The people that I've met in all different cultures, even back in the days of the Bloods and Crips. I'll be talking more about that. I mean, that was something. Even my wife that I just divorced, her brother and I lived in a neighborhood of in my her brother. Why are you out there talking to those people? Because they're my neighbors. I'm not going to hide from them. What are they going to do to me? If I hide from them, I'm showing fear. Again, I'm here to talk about so much. You show fear, and these people know it. We are animals. We sense instinct, and they attack. So I'm going to go talk to them. I'm not going to sit here and be afraid of them. Maybe I'll be afraid of them after I talk to them, but at the same time, I'm not going to live here and hide from them. Part of how I've got to know so many people. So there's a big difference with, and even the men. I've talked about how the men are very dick-headed. They actually look at white people and demeaning, and they are actually truly, they are the definition of racist. That 60 to 70 year bracket. As you start knocking down, and they are very womanistic. They treat their women like crap. And talking to the native, the foreigners who come here and work, yeah, where I come from, they still beat women right in the streets. It is legal. If a woman upsets you, you are legally obligated to beat her in the street, because if you don't, that shows that you're a weak man. I mean, this is seriously this. I talk to these people. This is seriously what goes on in the world. But yet we want to look at them as all great. And yes, we should. If we want to do great, then we should go in there and be kicking those men's butts. You should never beat nobody. That's where we should draw lines. We should not be telling every country what to do in the world. That's their rights. But humanity is still humanity, no matter what. You still have to be humane. There are levels we draw on that, but we still have to be humane. Nobody deserves to get beaten and tortured. Nobody. But that's not what our country actually goes to war for, and why I fought, and I'll talk more about that, why I fought signing up for, and I fought it. They put out a warrant because I refused to sign up for the draft when I was a kid. When I turned 18, I refused to sign up because I was not going to work because my president got a blowjob. No, I will stand here in the streets and defend my neighbors, defend my community, defend my country. But I'm not going to go overseas and fight a war because you want distraction. That's wrong. The politics is what has ruined it for the actual true patriots of our country. Is politics is what destroyed everything in our country. Is politics in no more at a progressive level than what has happened today. But we have to understand so much about history and so much about our country and so much about the people in our country and so much about ourselves before we can make sense of it all. Part of we let all that go. So I want to add this in with my speaking about my personal experiences with the Arab community. There's a reason why they are the way they are, just like everybody else in the world, but we have to understand that in order how we cope and learn and help and do all of that stuff, we have to understand. You go back through my history of life and how many people that nobody else would have let in, nobody else. Not, I mean, so many Arabs I speak specifically about would have never let another white person in their front door. But I did because I tried and even kept trying. And I proved myself to them. But I also saw what I saw, and the truth is the truth, and that's what I'm here to talk about. Now, again, you take those Arabs that were born here, and there are some very intelligent ones that deserve to be doctors. But you pull some of these from foreign countries who have never experienced the life we have and expect them to just be naturally just smart and do it. We can't do that. And I believe that's really what's taking place here because, again, how can you not speak English, but yet you can pass medical school in an English country? I certainly don't expect, even with my advanced knowledge, to go to a foreign country that does not have the advanced knowledge that I have and expect to be given a degree in their country, even just because of my knowledge, and expect me to be able to work on people I can't communicate with. It's impossible. Maybe I can do good and I can have a translator and we can make things work, especially where people don't have that knowledge and need it. But at the end of the day, that's not what. Do I have a translator here actually translating my doctor to me? No, I have to try to communicate with them myself. And it's been very difficult in many ways. And it's been very damaging, severely damaging in many ways. And it's just that aspect of a little alone. So, I'm adding this in there because there's a lot to talk about, and I don't want to demean anybody. I'm very good. It's part of me doing this channel and trying to talk more, and it's part of why I'm expressing more because I'm learning how to do that more. I am a very short speeched person. I like to just be blunt, quick, to the point. Words are not making progress in life. Pow, let's go. And while we're making progress, let's laugh and have fun and joke about things. That's the way I'm like built and really and just like a robot built like that. Um, so I'm trying to be better at that, and it's part of me over speaking is because I'm pushing back on myself. You need to learn how to be better at this, Jason. So I overspeak. I'm trying to learn to do better at that and find the middle ground that we all need to find in every aspect in life. There's always a happy medium, and too far either way is never a good thing. You can never take too many vitamins and think you're doing good. Eventually, you're going to do harm, even something as good as vitamins. There's nothing in life that does not have a balance, and we've thrown it completely out of whack. I'm hoping to try to bring it back, balance things out in my world at least a little bit, if not yours too. So please stick around, please share my stories, and please like and subscribe, and please understand when I talk about some of the hard, blunt things that it's coming from the heart. None of it is, and sometimes I am. I'm very tough and hard and blunt, and I don't always get my words out there properly. It's part of me. I've said it since the day one of this channel. I need to learn to be a better speaker, and I'm here to try to do that. The only way I can learn to be a better speaker is just like how I learned to cope with, I'm not over my fear of heights. I'm scared to death of heights. How do I cope with my fear of heights? I became a roofer. I could never learn to get over my fear of heights. I hate roofing. It's boring, it's hard, it's hot, it's tedious, but at the end of the day, I want to fight my fear of heights. So you know what? I'm gonna go take a job for a roofer for a while and get up on some roofs and fight my fear of heights. It's the only way we become stronger people is to acknowledge our fears and face them. We become a world that wants to turn away from them, go find something enjoyable to do and more enjoyable and more enjoyable. And now, how enjoyable is your life? Well, over time, I'm going to be putting in perspective to you, so please follow along and please stay tuned.